Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, one of the top shows on Apple Podcasts' music podcast charts. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating, leave a review. Past episodes are up on celebrityjobber.com. It's a pretty interesting story with my next guest, who I have been a fan of for a long time, but had no idea he's from where I'm from. And his family ran a pretty successful family business. I think Jeff Ross could have very easily ended up working in his family business and not be known as the Roastmaster General. I mean, maybe if just a few things happened differently in his life. And let's face it, the times have changed. Forget the last 10 or 20 years, but times have changed the last 5 years. And when you make your living as an insult comic, it could be kind of a scary world. Think about some of the comedians who said something, quote unquote, too soon, and they were finished. Think about some comedians who told, quote unquote, insensitive jokes, and you've never heard from them again. Jeffrey Ross, an insult comic. It's what his whole act is about. The Roastmaster General. What was his big break? And his first job? We'll find out next here on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Let me tell you something. All the years I've been doing this, and I'm a big fan of comedy, I'm like going through your whole shtick last night, trying to find out something about the Roastmaster General, and I'm like, oh my God, we grew up in the same place. I was from, lived in Warren my whole life, until my dad moved us to Florida in the middle of the night back when I was in the 8th grade, but that's another story. But my grandmother lived in Springfield. She lived in General Green Village. I know the Clinton Manor. I know everything. And I was just like, wow, I can't, used to get my hair cut at Guido and Aldo's. I don't know if you've ever gotten your hair.
I love it. How old are you?
I'm 49.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
You remember everything.
Jeff, do you find that there is somewhat of an affinity for other people from New Jersey? There's like a special connection, or are you trying to run away from people like me?
I learned a long time ago, there's no running away from your past, which is fine.
Right.
I love finding Jersey people, especially when I'm not in Jersey. Right. It's like a nice connection. And we all have thick skin. We can take a joke. We bust balls. We're like family.
I just find it so often that when I find out somebody's from New Jersey, I just start taking a jog down memory lane and start throwing, landmarks at them. And sometimes they'll play along, and then sometimes they're like, yeah, okay, let's go. Next question. So I wanted to ask you, before comedy, you were going along a different path altogether. Tell me about growing up and what you wanted to be when you grew up.
Oh, wow. I figured I'd be a musician.
Really?
I grew up in the catering business, and I wanted to be a rock star, like a lot of comics. But I wasn't good enough guitar player. I didn't have that musical ability, but I had good timing. So comedy was sort of a happy accident. I was in college, went to film school, knew I was going to get out of Jersey somehow. I wasn't going to be a caterer like everybody in my family. Yeah.
That was the family biz. Your family biz was a catering business, and did your whole family work there?
Yeah, we did. My cousin Rona's staying with me right now. She used to work there. And the show that I'm doing is about that. It's about my family. It's about growing up in the catering business. I found old films of my great-grandma Rosie, who ran this catering hall, Clinton Manor, in Newark and then Union, and restored them and kind of wrote some stories and jokes to the films and music that goes along with it.
So growing up, family business is the catering business. You go to school. Did I read this right? You kind of got into the radio station. Maybe you wanted to be in radio. Did you get into the?
I definitely wanted to be in radio more than anything. I loved it, and I was music director of my college radio station at Boston University, and definitely dived into new wave and punk rock, and those were good times. Those were really good times.
You studied radio, then you got out of college. And then what, Jeff? Didn't you have a real job at some point?
A real job? A real job? You don't think comedy's a real job?
No. I think you're living a dream. I mean, no, it's not, because not everybody is a stand-up comedian, I mean.
That's true. Back then, everybody was.
You're right. Right. No, I get it. Everybody's, even when they weren't, Jeff. Everybody was you go to, Thanksgiving, everybody's a stand-up comedian, even though they weren't. I had an Uncle Freddie. Oh, boy, I could tell you stories. So you graduate college, and then did you get into the real world, or did you pursue comedy right away?
I started developing a production company with a college friend. We wanted to go into video production after film school in Boston. And that was hard. That was hard starting your own business. And my other pal, Mark Chapin, who I went to college with, said, I took this comedy class. I think you'd be good at it. Why don't you take it? And I kind of was like, huh? And he explained to me what it was, and that he thought I would be good at it, and I wound up doing it.
But it's not just telling jokes, right, Jeff? I mean, a lot of people, they got to be like, hey, I'm a funny guy. I can do what you do. It's not that, though, right? I mean, there's a lot more to it. There's an art form. There's a premise. There's all this stuff that you have to learn. You can't just walk up on stage and be a comedian. When did you develop this skill to be known as the roast master general? Because it's different. You're not just a comedian. You annihilate people. I'm sure they come up to you on the street and go, "Do me." That's got to be annoying, right?
No, I mean, it's not. I'm so used to it that I would never let it bother me. I love this little niche that I've carved out. It's the best. And there's more to it, but it's ingrained in me. So it comes out whether I want it or not. The fact that I was able to tap into it is what's great and what's very lucky. And I got to thank my friends who encouraged me early on for getting me there. It's pretty cool.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Was it your Uncle Murray that was kind of the, I don't want to say the inspiration, but he was a guy that busted your balls and your family to where you kind of maybe got a little bit from him?
He was the king of the ball busters in my family. He ran the catering hall where I worked as a young boy and then as a teenager, and I'm looking at a picture of him right now. He was a great guy, and he was a World War II hero, Army medic, helped liberate a concentration camp, and a real inspiration. And he's another kind of launching point to the show that I'm doing. It's called Take a Banana for the Ride, and it's basically about resilience and bouncing back and going through some hard stuff and coming out the other side. And keep it on going. Something that people probably need right now.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about how people say that there's a connection between comedy and pain? You had a rough upbringing. You lost both of your parents at an early age. There's some pain. There's some sadness in there. Do you find that to be truthful?
I don't think I'm a sad person, but I think that comedy comes from pain. Yeah, I think, you get knocked down a little bit, humor will help push you through. And that's kind of where I'm at in my writing now, looking back at those times. I think it's very healing. I think people go, laughter is the best medicine, and it sounds like a cliche, but I actually think it's pretty on the money.
Can you think back, Jeff, to a particular moment in time where, I don't know if it was a roast or an appearance on TV or a particular gig, but a moment in your life that everything changed for you right after what?
This right now, 6:30 a.m. Let's go, Jeff. Come on. Bring it, baby.
So there had to be, you being a stand-up comedian and then transition into the roast master general. So, and then something happened. Was it a roast? What was the moment where your life changed?
Well, getting on that stage for the first time was pretty big. Just doing that was very exciting. I loved the energy of just talking into a microphone in public and the idea of free speech and being able to say whatever you want. And I thought that would be enough. But over time, I just saw it taking over my life and decided that I was all in, and that was pretty risky and scary. Like, I had a college degree, but yet here I was running around New Jersey and New York and Connecticut and Pennsylvania and Massachusetts doing comedy shows for $50, $100, whatever it was, and working my way up where I was making a few $100 a week going, hey, I'm actually surviving as a comic. So
right.
You don't think of it as a big break, but you think of it as these kind of step by step, joke by joke, gig by gig, check by check. And if you can enjoy that, if you can dig that, enjoy the process, you can go the distance. Obviously, getting booked on David Letterman in 1995, that was big. And obviously, the first roast coming out in 97, 98, that was big. So it's hard to point to any one moment, the I wouldn't blank you with B. Arthur's blank kind of moment. That was a big one, but you never know what's going to hit.
Right.
So it's all kind of a series of happy accidents and little mini celebrations and mini explosions that kind of got me here.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
Were you working in another field? Were you working another job as you were working to become a comedian? Did you have to moonlight? Did you have to work at the catering business at any point in time? What else did you do when you were trying to climb up the ladder in comedy?
You know what I would do? I got a car. My sister got in a car accident and she bought me a Jeep. And once I had the Jeep, I was able to, instead of getting a day job, I was able to be the guy that could pick up the other comedians
okay,
and drive them to the gigs. And that way I would get the job as the MC or the opener. So being the driver for Dave Chappelle and Jay Moore and these kind of people really helped. But luckily, because my parents had passed away, I had a little bit of a nest egg that I was able to use just to survive long enough to get through my open mic phase of my career. So
wow,
another happy accident.
Right. What about your first job? Was your first job in your family business, or did you work outside of that business? Shoveling
snow and rolling meatballs and working in the hat check at the catering hall. I was all in on the catering, on the family business. That was my life.
That was it. Seemed like a pretty secure gig, If I could go back now and go into my dad's architecture business and not screw around here, I think I would go back tomorrow.
You sure about that? You sound like you're right at home. I don't know.
I am right at home, but I'm having a lot of fun. But I'm a long way from retirement, Jeff.
I see what you're saying. I don't really look back too much, but it just seemed like a natural path to get out of the business. My dad passed away, so the catering business was kind of not quite what it was, and I just wanted to do something creative. I'm a creative person, and I think that was driving me to try new things, and I wanted to see the world, and comedy's been an incredible backstage pass to the world.
Man, it's been great talking to you, man. Seriously, I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And again, just for the very first time last night, I'm going through, your bio, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's from where I'm from. This is incredible. The Jersey Shore, let's just face it, ruined it for most of us.
I never saw the show, but I do remember when the situation came to the Donald Trump roast. That was a pretty memorable moment in the roast world. Hey, I'll never forget my Jersey roots. I got my Born to Roast tattoo last year on my right shoulder. So
that's awesome.
I'm in for life, Jeff.
Celebrity Jobber, the Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
Are you scared at all, Jeff? I mean, you see people like Lisa Lampanelli, who I love, and she got out because the times have changed.
What do you mean? What are you saying?
Being an insult comic, everybody is so uptight. Everybody is so, are you worried about being in these times and those people that, they're shutting people down?
Yeah. I think the roast, this Tom Brady roast, helped correct that a little bit.
Yeah.
At least that's what a lot of comedians are telling me, which is really cool. I love that. So I don't think I live in fear, but it's on my mind sometimes. But what am I supposed to do? People don't want I'm coming down to Tampa. Like, people don't want their comedy watered down. They want their comedy potent. It's like medicine. So to start watering stuff down to please people who aren't even buying tickets is not a good business plan. So screw them. I do what I want. People want to come. They want to get it full on, like right in the gut. My show doesn't hold back at all. My show is intense. It's funny. And it's emotional and it's fun. And if you're not into that, I don't need you.
Right. The roastmastergeneral.com coming to Ferguson Hall at the Straz Center in Tampa, the Plaza Live in Orlando. Again, the roastmastergeneral.com for all the information on when and where the Roastmaster General Jeff Ross is going to be. Really pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you one of these days. Maybe I'll see you in Tampa in a couple of weeks. That sounds good.
You got to come to the show, Jeff. All this Jersey research. You're going to love the show, baby. It's called Take a Banana for the Ride. You're going to love it.
Take a banana for the ride. All right.
Come as my guest. Bring your ugliest, fattest friend.
I've got a lot of them. All right, Jeff. Thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother.
Really cool getting to know Jeff Ross and growing up a little bit. He grew up in the same area that I grew up, and his family's business was a catering business that I've heard of in Union, New Jersey. That's where my parents are from. And I think it would have been very easy for Jeff Ross to, slip into that business. His parents, by the way, passed away both when he was younger. I think mom and dad both passed away when he was in his mid to late teens. So he mentioned he had a little bit of a nest egg from his parents passing away, wanted to be a rock star, studied radio in college at Boston University, really got into music. But, it was his family and bustin' balls in New Jersey, his Uncle Murray, pretty inspirational in Jeff's life as far as becoming a comedian. And not only a comedian, he is an insult comedian. The Roastmaster General, where he comes in, all these roasts, Tom Brady starts talking about his wife leaving him bailing out on his kids. I mean, goes for the jugular. And in this day and age where society is hypersensitive to being offended, I got a lot of respect for Jeff Ross and pretty much how he doubles down on what he does. And there are comedians that have gotten canceled for going a little too hard these days. He's not afraid. When Jeff got out of college, him and a buddy of his wanted to form a video production company. That's kind of the direction he was going in as soon as he finished school. But comedy came calling. And like he said earlier, no looking back. Could have very easily been Jeffrey Ross, owner, manager of the Clinton Manor Caterers. It was his first job. He said not only did he work there rolling meatballs, he shoveled snow there, worked the hat check. I mean, everything that had to do with that business, Jeff did it. He's got 2 shows booked in Florida, October 26th at the Straz in Tampa and the Plaza on October 27th. Roastmastergeneral.com for all of his tour dates throughout the country. The Real Jeff Ross on Twitter was a great guest. I really enjoyed having him on. And thank you for listening to the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, one of the top shows on the music podcast charts on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe. Would love a 5-star rating and leave a review. Past episodes are up on celebrityjobber.com. You can also check out youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber and celebrityjobber_podcast on Instagram. As always, I thank you for listening to the Celebrity Jobber podcast. And until next week, I'm Jeff Zito.